That's how we roll. Buccaneers gonna rock this house. You're running with the big boys now. Buccaneers gonna strike you down. That's how we roll. That's how we roll.
And welcome in to the InstantCast show. This is for Game 2. The Buccaneers taking on the Minnesota Vikings earlier today. It's about 9 o'clock Sunday night, so just a few hours after the game has ended. My name is Brent Allen. I'll be your host tonight. This is the InstantCast show presented by the Pewtercast on Mixler.com/thepewtercast. We are joined by you guys in the chat room, as well as my co-host, Ren Daxt. Ren, I hate to ask, but how are we feeling tonight, buddy?
Hey there, Pewtercast Nation. Well, I know what it feels like to be a Bears fan.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, so talk to me about that for just a minute.
Well, just as bad as a showing that, Chicago had against us, in our first game, week 2, I can sympathize with them this week. I think it was a much more competitive game, especially in the second half. The final score, the game was a little closer, but you'd have to watch the entire game. But yeah, there's definitely things to take away that were upsetting and makes you sad. But everything will be fine tomorrow.
It'll, yeah, I might need a day or two longer than that. Well, for anyone who hasn't gotten a chance to watch the game yet, or if you're just not watching the game, or if you haven't heard, the Buccaneers went up to Minnesota, and after putting a whooping on the Chicago Bears last week with a score of 29-7, really should have been 29-0, or even 43-0. Actually, I think is probably closer to what it should have been. Didn't work out so well for us this week. Buccaneers lost the game 34-17, I believe it was, Ren, if that's right. So as you were saying, not quite as lopsided of a score as we defeated the Bears with, but it was not a pretty game. Well, guys, this is the InstantCast show. In the InstantCast show, this is really a chance. We've not gotten a chance to watch the game film back yet because it's not out yet. We're not watching the All-22. The best we've done is maybe watch a couple of press conferences, and I've only seen cutters. I've not watched anybody else's yet personally. So the emotions and the thoughts are still raw, and that's what this show is all about. It's a chance for us to talk about kind of our instant reactions, our knee-jerk reactions to the game, and along for you guys, our listeners, to be able to listen. So shout out to everybody who is joining us on Mixler in the chat room there. You guys are awesome. We'll go ahead and open up the phone lines. The phone line is 864-729-BUCKS. That's 864-729-2827. You guys can call in. We'll talk about anything from the game or just the state of the Bucks in general that you guys want to talk about. And we'll be here, 45 minutes to an hour or so, or until you guys stop calling. So I know there's a couple more people trickling into the chat room. So, Ren, I know you kind of gave us your first your first impressions of the game, but you were saying how it felt a little bit like the Bears game, like we're feeling like we know what the Bears are feeling like. Bears apparently went out this week and put one up on the Steelers. I talked about a little bit in the main episode for this past week, Lions and Tigers and Bears, no problem. How there was this like catch in my spirit, from these teams that went out and put up a big show week 1. They came out and put up an egg in week 2, and it looks like several of those teams, at least so far, have turned around in week 3 and did pretty well. But I was kind of saying how there was a catch in my spirit for week 2 for the Buccaneers, where we did so well in week 1 that, my God, I just did not want to be that team. But it looks like we might be that team this week.
Yeah, the curse of Case Keenum strikes again.
Oh my God.
I can't. It's undescribable about how this guy has. You can't even say it's Mike Smith's defense figured out, because when he beat us the first time, Mike Smith wasn't defensive coordinator, but man, he looked like Johnny Unitas out there. Everything everything looked to be like one-on-one, and every time we got close to him, they seemed to have the perfect play, and he got the ball out. Every single play they ran, it seemed was like at least for 5 yards. It was just defense could get off the field in third down. The offense couldn't convert third downs. It was just it was a battle from the start. They got the kickoff and just marched it right down and put up 7, and we never took the lead from there.
Right.
That was it. Yeah, it was. I'm still flabbergasted about how poor the defense looked.
Yeah.
Even with those players out.
Yeah. So I mean, that to me I think is the big note and the big lesson. Bucks went in, and Swaggy Baker, or nose tackle or defensive tackle, whatever position you want to pin him in at, we left him home with the flu. Jock Smith, we left him also home with the flu, but we haven't seen him play since the first Atlanta game last year, and even that was only one play. So I don't know how much of a I don't know, what do you call it, an impact missing Jock Smith had, but turns out Brent Grimes was out. We also left Quan Alexander home. So kind of right up the 3 major players right up the defensive unit from front to back, with Baker out on the line, Quan back out for the linebackers, and then Grimes for the defensive backfield. All we needed was one of our safeties out, and we would have had the trifecta, So let me ask you this, Ren. How much of an impact did having those specific players out really impact the team coming out? Or had they been there, do you think it would have made much of a difference?
First, I just want to say Quan did make the trip. The only people they left behind was Baker and Jacquez Smith, just to say that. Quick correction. It's impossible to tell. Now, I think of the 3, Grimes was obviously the one who was missed the most. He was sorely missed. You had a feeling that the Vikings might go after Ryan Smith, and they did, and it worked. But when they went after Vernon Hargreaves, it worked just as well. So it was pick your poisons. The defensive backs, the corners, did not have a good day at all. It was.
I saw.
It looked like pitch and catch out there all day long.
It did. I saw a lot of people on Twitter, on social media, who were shall we say, a bit overreactive, I think, about Vernon Hargreaves, and saying how much he was a bust, how much Light got that pick wrong, how he's just not good, and he shouldn't be out there. And while on some level I think it may have looked like that today, I don't know that that's necessarily true. But, I mean, Vernon was getting burned just about any time the camera was on him on TV today.
Yeah, they challenge him during the offseason sort of to trust what he sees and play a little closer, a little tighter, and make some more plays on the ball. But, he didn't have a particularly great game against Chicago. It's just with all those turnovers, the defense as a whole did. And, he definitely didn't have – he had a very poor game against Minnesota. So – I don't even go on Twitter if the Bucks are losing during a football game. Like
Right.
I learned that lesson last year. Like, it's everything's the sky's falling. I'm jumping off the bridge. This person sucks. That person sucks. This person's trash. That person's trash. So I've just learned to stay off it if we're losing. I'm not in the boat of saying that Vernon Hargreaves is the bust, but I will say that I'm disappointed in his play,
especially as a first round draft pick.
A cornerback, besides quarterback, personally, besides QB, I think personally, cornerback is the hardest position to learn in the NFL as the jump, from college to pro. Having said that, people do it. Lots of people do it. Lots of players do it, and lots of players do it that aren't, a top 10 pick. I know he's 11, but could have got him at 9 type of thing. So around a top 10 pick. I have always sort of been disappointed, but if we would have won the game and he would have had the same exact game he had today, I would be sitting a little more firmly in the camp of well, yes, he's young, and we'll wait and see.
Give him time to develop.
Give him time to develop. Yeah. If we'd have won the game, when you lost the game, it's like, well, and it really is like the time is now.
Mm-hmm.
You can chalk it up to a bad game, but he needed to step up today because of Ryan Smith on the other side, and he definitely didn't do it. But by no means am I throwing in the towel on Vernon Hargreaves.
Right. Atlanta Bucks fan Dan in the chat room says everyone is a bust, and after today's performance, with the exception of Gerald McCoy, that might just be the case. We've got a call coming in. Let's go ahead and see who is on the line with us. Welcome to the InstantCast for the Pewtercast. Who do we got talking to us today?
What's up, guys? It's Craig in Vegas again. How you guys doing?
Craig in Vegas, buddy. I've missed you the last couple of weeks. What's going on, my friend?
No, the schedule's kind of, work and everything else. So
sure. Glad
this worked out tonight. So, listen, today was kind of eerily similar to the Arizona game last year.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Where we came off a nice win against Atlanta last year, and it's just kind of like they just can't handle success. It felt like, it's just like, all right, well, we're going to do different. And Case Keenum's there. Well, we're going to get revenge today. And I'm like, it just didn't happen. It was just like all phases were just off. Just seemed like out-coached, outplayed, whatever it is. But it just didn't click, and it just was so similar to the game. And I know Swaggy didn't have a tackle on the sheet last week, but if you read like what Ward said and a couple other guys said, the linebackers were able to roam free because that type of guy takes on two defenders. And
right.
I think him not being in there next to Gerald and all that, whether they didn't generate enough pass rush last week, they still got pressure. But if the guard and the tackle have to take on Swaggy, it frees up GMAC. If GMAC's there, then Swaggy's going to get through. The ends come through a little bit cleaner. The linebackers are able to roam a little more free as well too, coming through on touch. So you don't get those dink and dunk routes. You don't get those slants as well too on you. So I think his injury or the illness was a little bit more as well too. I also think a little bit of this loss today, and listen, the guy's done a great job for the organization, Jason Light, but you got to put a little bit on him today. We're looking at comparable areas where the Bucs picked. Dalvin Cook was unbelievable. He's been really good so far. We couldn't trade up. I know they tried to trade up, whatever it is. But Justin Evans, and I know it's only game two, and but game two, with this secondary, if you can't get on the field in a rotation, that's a problem of a second-round pick that should be able to contribute to us as well, too. If he can't play corner and you can't break the starting lineup with our safeties right now, that's a problem as well, too. And I think I'm not saying he's a bust yet, but I'm a little concerned. And the only time he ever made it on the stat sheet today is when he ran out of bounds on the punt return, and they ended up losing 15, 16 yards on that as well too. So yeah. I think there's a little blame to go around for the entire organization today. It's only one game. I'm going to pump the brakes a little bit. Obviously Jameis is frustrating as well too today with those interceptions as well too, and the injuries obviously were mounting as well too. But I think the big thing is there's other teams getting contributions from their second and third round picks right now, and I know it's only game two. But we were close to picking whether Mixon or Cook wasn't there, or even Quincy Wilson for the Colts. Guys like that could have contributed. But we picked a safety when we probably needed more corner help than anything as well too.
Well, I'm going to politely disagree with you. I've gone on record before that I think the Bucs are sort of cornered into taking a safety in round two. Justin Evans was the seventh safety taken off the board. I think the Bucs would have loved, to go like running back in the second round, but they know they needed a safety. TJ Ward fell in our lap. We had no idea it was going to be there. In hindsight, you go, well, hey, by week one we're going to have TJ Ward. Do you want to take a safety in the second round? No, absolutely not. Like I wouldn't take a safety probably the whole entire draft if I knew I was getting TJ Ward. But
he doesn't. But he can't play corner either, and I think that's where they need more help right now. Especially with Grimes at his age as well, too, that I think you needed more help with a guy who's going to actually play corner, not safety as much as well too, because I think Tandy and Conley were serviceable at the end of the year, especially in the last 8 games. But I still think, where was Elliott today as well too? I thought he was good down the stretch last year. You didn't see, Javion Elliott down the stretch or even played at all today as well too. And I thought he played pretty well, especially in that Saints game last year. He played a heck of a game, and you get to see him play today as well too.
Well, he was actually inactive for week 1. Bobby McClain, the guy at the pick 6 in the Chicago game, beat him out. So it's hard to say that was a wrong decision. I would also have liked to seen a cornerback. Like, I was hoping for cornerback in the first round. That was sort of my pick, that we get another corner, sort of let him sit behind Hargraves and Grimes, or play nickel early, and then when Grimes, next year possibly he won't be playing, we have these 2 number 1 picks out at cornerback, and they sort of learn together. Mm-hmm. But O.J. Howard fell in your lap, so that sort of goes out the window. And plus, they were thinking that Ryan Smith, obviously today was not a good test for him, but they're moving Ryan Smith, who they drafted the year before, from safety to corner, and they thought they were good. And I get it, I really do. I understand exactly where you're coming from, but you have to remember, you can't fill all your holes. You just can't. You have to make educated decisions and guesses what you think's going to happen. And they had Grimes and they had Hargraves, and they thought that Ryan Smith was going to be fine. Plus, they had Elliott, in the slot. So they felt they had bigger need in safety, and really they did. I mean, at one point in the offseason, the only safety in the whole entire team was Keith Tandy. Then they signed Chris Conti, and then free agency came around, and they signed J.J. Wilcox, and then they drafted Evans. So, the top 5 safeties, like I said, there was only one safety on the team at one point during the offseason, pretty late into the offseason. So I hear what you're saying. I get it, but you just can't have everything. If you so put it this way, if you were to take a cornerback in the draft, who are you gonna give up? I mean, obviously it's a little easy right now to say Justin Evans, but are you going to give up Chris Godwin?
Nichols.
Are you going to give up
Nichols?
But there's no way a cornerback, who knows that a cornerback taken in the 6th round is actually going to be seeing the field, let alone make the team.
Right.
So
but I also think too is they waited to the 5th round on the running back situation, and that blew up on him as well too. And then the McNichols was terrible. And listen, they cut bait and they had to get her. And listen, he didn't want to sign with them. Then big deal. I like that Jason, when he knows when it's going the wrong way, he cuts bait with them as well too. Whether it was Aguayo, whether it was McNichols, whatever it was, they realized that. But at the same time, is you had to also there's not enough balance right now with the way they're playing. I know they got to wait one more game to get Doug back, and I don't know if Doug's the answer as well too. I think Doug's an upgrade for what they have as well too, but I just can't. And I think the most frustrating thing, too, at times is seeing Charles Sims try to run between the tackles. I think we saw enough of that twinkle toes last year, and it just doesn't work. It just doesn't work. I thought Barber probably was the best running back last week. He didn't get any carries today.
Barber,
it was a frustrating day from a coaching. It just didn't seem like they were just prepped for the game as well, too.
Yeah, and Craig, I don't want to invalidate your feelings, because you're absolutely right, and this is exactly what the InstantCast is for. And you're right. Peyton Barber was our best back, at least by the numbers last week. He had 4.7 yards per carry, and you may say, well, yeah, but some of that was in garbage time or whatever. Even when you take away like his big runs and stuff, he was still at 3.7 yards per carry, which is better than Jacquizz Rodgers' 3.5 yards per carry. So you're 100% right when you say that. And to the whole thing about, they should have drafted a cornerback or should have not. Ren, you were picking a cornerback in the first round right. Again. I personally thought it was crazy, because we just picked a cornerback in the first round last year, but you were on that. Scott Smith from Buccaneers.com was also on that train, if I remember correctly. He wanted to see us draft a cornerback in the first round as well. Mm-hmm. So, Craig, those feelings are absolutely valid. And, we can go back.
Don't get me wrong. I think O.J. Howard's going to be, and I would not have passed on O.J. Howard. I think you have to have 2 tight ends in this league.
Exactly.
So I was talking about 2nd, 3rd round as well, too. And I know, the kid from Penn State's going to be good. You could tell there's potential as a receiver. I just think this team needs a little bit more as well, too. But let me ask you one other thing.
Sure.
Everybody's kind of reading out there that Malcolm Butler's kind of fell out of favor with New England as well, too. And there, a couple of sites are reporting, even Nesson was reporting, that he may be available via trade. I tell you, after today, I wouldn't mind making a call to the Patriots and say, hey, what do you want for him? If it's between a third and a fifth, I do it. For a guy who can play man defense, which is what they need right now, and with Grimes unsure. And I think, I guess, the Patriots don't want to pay him long term, but I'd make a call tonight or tomorrow. I hope Jason makes a call and says, hey, if they're willing to ask for something that's reasonable, I would get that deal done.
Yeah, and Jason Light, as we've seen, he's not afraid to wheel and deal, and he's dealt with the Patriots before, and he came out of that sort of organization, if you really want to call it a coaching tree, but at least a front office tree, because Belichick is the GM there, so he can't. He sort of came out of his front office tree.
Right.
But I do want to agree with you, Craig, on the play calling. I thought Cutter went away from the run way too early.
Yeah.
When they got down 14-3, I felt like he panicked a little. The defense just was on the field for like an 80-yard drive, and he comes out and runs. He comes out and runs no huddle, and they're out. And they're 3 and out. And then all of a sudden, I think that was the last time they probably even ran the ball. I don't even remember them running the ball in the second half, except to give to Charles Sims, of course. So, I'm looking for Doug to come back. I'm waiting for Doug to come back, and I think it's going to be good for the team. I just don't think Jacquizz Rodgers, whatever it may be, he just doesn't even look like he has the same explosiveness, or and I hate to say this, I don't want to say desire, but almost. I don't know. He just doesn't look the same back as he did last year for us.
Yeah, and I agree with that as well, too. And I think the lack of preparedness today, kind of all unfolded on that one play early, third quarter. The defense was trying to run players off and on. Mm-hmm. And Conti was trying to hold, and they still couldn't, and they threw for 50 yards there and a touchdown. Something wasn't clicking right today, and it just – I know it's game one. It's one game. I'm not going to hit the panic button as well, too. But it just seems like just something wasn't right today, and it just felt eerily similar to the Arizona game, which I went to last year, and it just looked the same. I mean, it wasn't – we were a little more in this game than we were that one, and we had a chance as well, too. But it just seemed in as well, too. And let me make one last point. I think also the officiating today was horrendous, and I'm not saying it cost us the game. I think Cook fumbled on the one. And the announcer said that there was clearly out.
Yep.
The non-targeting call on Cameron Brate was absolutely disgusting. For a league that's trying to push player safety as well, too, that was terrible as well, too. I think the holding call on Dotson as well, too. Mm-hmm. Listen, Xavier Rhodes was falling down. He was falling on him as well, too. That wasn't a hold as well, too. I think they also got away with a couple things on the outside with some receiver holds early in the game as well, too. But in general, and then also too, we had some guys bumped off routes down the field as well too. I just think in general, the officiating was not up to par today. And I'm not saying it cost us, but here and there, if Brate's in concussion protocol, that's something that they need to send that film up there as well too. But clearly, I thought Cook fumbled on the one. And there's no way that linesman can say he saw the ball cross the line. There's no way he can say he saw that.
Yeah, and Craig, I'm 100% going to agree with you on that. And you can't blame it all on one thing. I think with this game, you can't blame everything on one thing. It was an amalgam of a lot of little different things. But hey, Craig, I'm going to go ahead and clear this line. We'll give somebody else a chance to call in. But stick with us for the show because we're going to keep trying to parse out exactly what wasn't clicking up for the Bucs tonight. All right.
All right, guys. Enjoy the show.
Thanks, Craig. You have a great one,
man.
All right, that
Good
was
to hear from
Craig.
you, buddy.
Yeah, that was Craig in Vegas, good friend of the show. Want you guys, hey, listen, shout out. The chat room's blown up here over the course of this last call. So hello to everybody who is in the chat room. The line is clear if you'd like to call in. The number is 864-729-BUCKS. That's 864-729-2827. We'd love to talk to you about what happened today in the game. You just heard Craig was talking about something wasn't clicking, and that's the question really on our minds tonight is what? What wasn't clicking? So yeah, Ren, any thoughts? Any next bits of conversation you want to tackle until the next person calls in?
Sure. I just want to, I think this is going to be sort of a big topic, at least for the next couple of days till, the Bucs sort of come to practice on Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
Here we go.
Yep. Hey, welcome to the Instant Cast. You're on with Brent and Ren. Who do we have here tonight?
Ground control. This is Javier from Panama City, Panama.
Javier, what's going on, my friend?
How you doing, man?
Man, Javier, it is so hard for me to hear your voice and not try to speak in some kind of a funny accent. So if I start doing it, it's not on purpose. I apologize. But,
Okay,
man, it's good to hear from you.
No problem, man. What about today? What do you guys? It's just a casual Sunday, right? Did I miss something?
What happened?
Yeah, we just, we cooked out. We went swimming in the pool. Bucks put up a big old goose egg. What else?
Oh,
What
yeah.
else,
But actually, I'm glad that we're having a decent conversation. Listen, I've spent almost all afternoon reading message boards, Facebook groups, and there's just so much negativity of people just complaining unnecessary about every single thing, throwing the towel, jumping off the ship. It was a big loss, but it's just one loss, and this is going to put additional pressure on next week. Now, not too many teams go to the playoffs after starting 1-2, so everybody needs to vent out, watch some film, learn from our mistakes, get healthy, and just focus on the Giants because that's a game that we really need to win. And the Giants, they may be winless, but I don't know if they're that bad of a team. I know they've had their struggles with the offensive line, but the way Odell Beckham played today, I feel like he's bringing back the energy that they've been missing. But anyways, I want to focus on this game, on our game, and I saw some similarities with the Arizona Cardinals game last year, but it wasn't exactly that. It's not like we were reading our post clips like we did last year. We had a combination of so many things. I mean, injuries. I think we were down 5 starters or something like that, and key starters. And our linebacker health going forward is going to be crucial. I mean, Quan is dealing with a hamstring, and those hamstrings, they can pop up right back, and I mean the injury. And now Lavonte David, with his injury, I read that it was a high ankle sprain, and those are tough injuries. Those take quite some weeks to get back into full strength. So that's something to take a closer look. I don't know what you guys think.
Well, honestly, I think the reason everyone sort of keeps equating this to the Cardinals game from last year is because they're feeling the same amount of like disappointment and betrayal that happened that week. We weren't really know what we were going to have second year with Jameis. We go to Atlanta, and they're supposed to be a good team. We get this great road win, and then we go out to, Arizona. Jameis turns the ball over a lot, and everyone feels like what happened? Like, where's the defense? We just felt really betrayed, and the same thing happened here. We have this game in Chicago. Defense is dominating the offense, moving the ball up and down the field. Jameis doesn't throw any picks. He keeps talking about protect the ball, protect the ball, protect the ball. And we go into Minnesota, and Case Keenum just lays waste to our secondary. Turnover after turnover after turnover. So it's that sort of same betrayal that you felt after this week one. Because there's always this anticipation, like, how is my team going to look? Preseason doesn't really count. You can guess what's going to happen. You can guess about what your roster is. You can guess. But then they get there, and it counts on Sunday, and they come out with this great victory. And then the next week, it's just you really got to talk yourself off the ledge right after the game's over. So I think that's why everyone's sort of equating it to, the Arizona game, like I said. Now, as far as what do I think about the game,
I know it was a complete team loss. We lost on all facets of the game.
Yeah.
I know it's one thing to start your first career game as a center at home, but this game, Ali Marpet, he really struggled with the snaps.
Yeah.
I believe he had 3 bad snaps and also a penalty.
Yeah.
And I know that he's going to get better. He's playing his second career game at center.
Yeah, Javier. Just to that, I mean, let's stick on Marpet. I personally saw 5 bad snaps. Three of them cost the Bucks. Like Jameis recovered 2 of them and turned it into something, but 3 of them actually cost us. But there were at least 5 that I saw, and that's just the ones that I saw.
I saw 3 because I have a confession to make. I missed the entire first half because I had some family diligence. It's a Sunday midday. I had to take care of that, and then I came running back to the game, and I saw 3. And it's really deflating when you turn on the TV and you're watching 14-3, and you say like Casey Keenum again. What the?
Yeah.
And I mean, and also Jameis. I love Jameis. He's my quarterback, no doubt about it. Mm-hmm. But it's clear at this point that he plays different home than he does away. The broadcaster mentioned that like he has like over 20 turnovers in 17 career games. 17 career games away.
Jeez.
And
is that true?
I don't know if it's about the emotions, but I mean he had, like for example, the second interception to Mike Evans. He was throwing to triple coverage. When that happens, I know there was somebody else open. So and the replay show he was focusing dead on Mike Evans, and I think that's what Coach Cutter preached, like we saw on Hard Knocks. Like nobody else can lose the game as much as you do, but now we have options. I mean, we have so many options. Spread the ball around, Jameis. That's when this offense starts rolling, and we can take deep drives like we did in the first game.
Javier, do you think that some of that might be because, like, I mean, keep in mind the last 2 years, in particular last year when the only real receiver we had was Mike Evans. Yes, we also had Adam Humphries, but as far as, getting the ball really down the field, it was only Mike Evans. So here we are in game 2 where now we also have this other guy, Deshaun Jackson. Do you think there might be a little bit of I think when the pressure gets on, he just kind of goes to where he's comfortable.
I believe the relationship with Deshaun Jackson is not there yet. However, you saw he missed on a couple of deep throws, including the first interception. Mm-hmm. But I think as a duo, they popped their share with that touchdown. That was a beautiful throw and catch by Jameis and Deshaun. So I hope that can only get better. And as that gets better, he's not gonna keep his eyes all the time on Mike Evans because that's not the Jameis we need. We need the other Jameis. Like in the third quarter, there was a point where we scored that touchdown to Deshaun Jackson. That drive felt really good. That's like the third-year quarterback we need right now. And,
we need him to lock into that early in the game and stay with that the whole game, not just pop up for a series here and there.
Yes, and the slow starts. I mean, like I read from Don Ira Kaufman, like Jameis has thrown in his career 5 first-quarter touchdowns. So we need to get him rolling early. And I don't know how the first quarter went because I didn't watch it, but 14-3, that tells me a lot. And I don't know what else.
It was a rough first half. It was a rough game all the way around, but that first half is like, oh my word. For where we're doing that. Well, hey, Javier, real quick before I let you go, man. One, I know you're calling internationally, and you'll forgive my lack of knowledge of the geography, but I know you're in Panama. But I know that area has had a couple of things. I know Mexico's had a couple of earthquakes. There was a little bit of a hurricane or a storm. Are you doing okay where you are? How are things going with you down there?
Yeah, we are kind of blessed geographically because we don't get hit by hurricanes that much or earthquakes, but I mean, we stay in touch and we monitor everything that's going around with us. And I know there are around 10 Bucks fans from Mexico that I know that I stay in touch with. Not constantly, but some of the times, and they've all reported that they're okay. And man, there are some other Bucks fans that I know that have family in Puerto Rico, and the situation there is not really. Yeah, it's devastating. But let's all keep them in our prayers, and let's hope this team brings them cheers. And I know we're gonna give it all the next game, and I will be there for that game. So hopefully
you're coming to the Giants game, right?
Oh yeah, I had my ticket bought from back in June, but some things came in the way, and I wasn't sure. But I got my ticket, I got my housing, my lodging situation, everything's been settled, it's been taken care of, and I'll be traveling Friday, tailgating with What the Buck.
There you
And
go.
hopefully you guys will be there. Great game, great environment, and hopefully we're going to cheer for a Bucks win and get us to 2-1.
Yo, Javier, man, I can't wait to give you a big high five and a hug. And hey, listen to that, and I kind of made this as a note from something you said earlier. As fans, let's talk to us as fans. We need, right now is the time to get all the frustration out, right? And then we need to show up for the Giants game because our team is going to need us when we get home. And I know that's something that you're gonna feel too, right?
We have to pack that stadium. We have to make it loud on defense. The team needs to feel that this crowd and this city and us as a fans, we are behind them. We're not going to bail out on them and start talking about the draft like some people want to do in September, and we've done that for so many years. Not this year. No, this is different.
Yeah, very good.
Committed.
Very good. Well, Javier, man, I'm going to let you go. Thanks
right.
so much for calling in internationally. I know that's a big call, so thanks for doing that, man. And, hey, go
You're
Bucks,
welcome.
and we'll see you on Sunday, okay?
I know that Ren's been doing great on the Fantasy Football League because he's just too good at it. But,
3-0. I think I'm going to be 3-0.
Yeah. I might be going 1-2, but let's talk about that later.
Got to start somewhere.
Have fun, guys.
See ya.
Bye, guys. And for the record, I think I might be 2-1. So I think Javier is in our fantasy league for the PewterCast annual fantasy football league. And Ren, I think you will be 3-1. I think I'll be 2-1 this week. And
3-0.
3-0. Sorry, I'll be 2-1. And Javier, I think he just said he thinks he'll be 1-2. So we'll see that. Well, hey guys, the phone line is open. Shout out! We actually got a couple of more new listeners into the chat room. So shout out to everybody over there. If you guys want to call in, the line is clear. The number is 864-729. $bucks. That's 864-729-2827. Ren, I want to talk about something real quick. I think a big piece of what is as far as parsing out what went wrong today, a big piece was the defense.
You think?
I mean, like more than 50%. It feels like a lot of it was on the defense, especially because the defense looked so great last week and they didn't this week. And a part of that, I saw a lot of people talking about Chris Conte. Of course, that's to be expected. Certainly, a lot of people talking about Vernon Hargraves and stuff. But when we talk about the defense, I think it's important to remember that the defense is one of those like cohesive units. Like all points of the thing have to work together in harmony. If any one of them doesn't do their job, then it makes everything that much harder for the rest of them. So let's talk about the defensive line, or at least the front seven of the defense, and their ability, or rather lack, I think, of ability to get pressure on Case Keenum tonight.
Okay. Okay, I guess that's my question.
Yeah. What do you think about that? Because Swaggy Baker is one of those guys that was out. Did he make that much of a difference in the front seven to not get that much pressure? Or what was the difference between last week and this week for our defensive line? And why couldn't they get there?
And this may sound strange, but I'm blaming it. But I'm saying it has a lot to do with the cornerbacks. It really does, because he was getting rid of the ball so quickly, and the guys were so open that I don't think you could actually start from a 3-point stance and get to where he was standing when he was releasing the ball in time if no one was in your way. That's how fast he was getting rid of the ball today. Mm-hmm. Like I said, it was just sort of pitch and catch. I mean, McCoy was unblockable, but he never had to look off his first look. It seemed all game long. He knew where he wanted to go with the ball as soon as it was hiked to him, and when he looked there, the guy was open and he threw it. I think there would have been a lot more pressure, a lot more sacks if he just had to look to his second receiver, not his third, not his fourth, not have to scramble around. I thought Minnesota's game plan really kept the Bucs defense off balance, and it didn't help that I mentioned earlier that everything seemed to work. Like everything was like a 5-yard gain. When a running back goes out, flares out of the backfield, and he's wide open with nobody covering him multiple times, something's wrong. Something got busted, something's broken. You saw it happen with Dalvin Cook early in the first, and then late in the fourth quarter. So I honestly, I don't really want to talk about the defensive line. What I want to talk about is that throw to Evans that was brought up in a call, and I want to talk about the targeting that I really didn't get to cover before that. But if you have some thoughts on the defensive line, please go right ahead.
I don't know because this is really one of those things that I'm gonna have to wait till I get to go back and watch the tape and see, because I couldn't make it out. I couldn't figure out exactly what was happening. Just from watching on TV today and also keeping up with Twitter and interacting, because apparently I'm not as smart as you are, Ren, and I do stay on Twitter when the Bucs are losing. Though to get off of Twitter while the Bucs are losing sounds like a really intelligent thing. The only thing I think I can say about the defensive line is specifically about Gerald McCoy, and this just goes to show how much I can't say about the defensive line, is here's a guy who gets hurt, rolls up his ankle, whatever he has happen. We know that he was in a boot after, I think, last week's game, and he had some ankle stuff going on. He aggravated his ankle injury tonight, and we'll talk about this here in just a moment. Calling in, I believe we have someone on the line. Who do we got here with us?
Hey, man, it's Old School.
Old School, what is going on, my friend? I'm going to try to patch in Ren to this call. I don't know that he is here just yet, but go ahead, man. Talk to us about what's going on.
Well, I'm not calling internationally, but I am in Alligator Alley. You guys, I was listening to it on Mixler, which is very cool, and you were talking about the defensive line. I think Ren is more or less correct with regards to the time that Case was able to get the ball out of his hands, combined with the fact that our coverage teams were limited significantly due to the injuries. So it wasn't like we had all the normal coverage teams that we could run. When we went to man, Case Keenum, and I think people need to stop saying his name as if that is like your little brother who's playing in the front yard. The quarterback that played for the Vikings today delivered really good on target passes, right? So if they went to man, he just threw completions, and it wasn't like the guys were standing 10 yards away from guys.
Mm-hmm.
But with the amount of time that they had, they were doing a good job of letting Gerald get upfield and flushing Case to a place where he could throw the ball. It felt to me like we were not only outplayed, but also outcoached on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, I would 100% agree with you on that. It does look like I've dropped Ren, so Derek, you and I are just going to talk here for just a minute till we get Ren back on here. Yeah, I mean, so talk to me about that, being outcoached on both sides of the ball. We've had, obviously we have Mike Smith on defense, Dirk Cutter and Todd Monken on offense. What is it that they were able to do this week on a coaching level? Okay, let's talk about Cutter specifically, because Brennan mentioned this earlier. We went away from the run. We got off of our game plan. We did, what was it about Cutter? What was about going on that made him dump the game plan or get so thrown off of that that we just couldn't recover? We couldn't get back into it.
I'm not sure. On first watch, it's interesting, and NFL Osby commented on the first drive, we ran a bunch of different formations, and he had postulated that was to get a look at what the defense would do when confronted with it, which makes sense. I honestly think on first blush we had a little bit of guru-itis, which Cutter is certainly prone to, as are any good coaches. I think he got enamored with the fact that he was able to move the ball down the field throwing it, and figured that once he got behind 14-3, he could get back quickly. And Ren pointed out very accurately that the challenge with that is if you go out there and you screw up, you're putting a gassed defense down 5 starters on their heels against an offense that's moving the ball well, and it's quicksand. And I don't necessarily share the Rodgers hate that's going on. I do think Doug is an upgrade. I don't think Rodgers is bad. I think the offensive line had a particularly rough time today with the Vikings because we, instead of going spread and running, we went bunch and ran, which is always stupid. So any of you coaches listening out there, take a note. If you're playing a defense that likes to crowd the line, make them declare by spreading your guys out. Don't go into like trip, bunch, right and then think, oh, no problem, we'll just put a hat on a hat and run through them, because guess what? You won't. You'll get tackled for a 2-yard gain. So it was just, I felt like everyone was bad. The only theory I've heard so far that made any sense is the flu bug is way more significant than anyone knows, and everyone was just sick.
Yeah.
Right? And I hate being the conspiracy guy, but hell, looking at the turd that was laid today, it's as good as anything. And as far as the compare contrast to Arizona, the only difference is this week, we still had a chance in the second half. Like, people can laugh all they want, but after that Deshaun Jackson touchdown and the defense stood back up, if we don't come back and again play like morons, you're all of a sudden getting within a score. And you've been dominated, literally curb stomped the entire game, and somehow you pull this out of your ass and you can come back and potentially, tie the game. So that doesn't make me happy. I think everyone, has to wear this loss, pretty significantly, but it's one loss, just like it was one win last week. And as far as the negativity, guys, I feel you. I went on a tirade at halftime about all the negativity. I told the guy at Buffalo Wild Wings to go and take his jersey off and leave it on the table. I'd find somebody who wanted to wear it. The Bucs fans need to step off the ledge and stop thinking we're the Patriots and thinking we're going to walk away with everything, and when we don't, that we should blow the whole thing up. I get it. You're emotional.
Right.
I get it. Some of you don't know how the game is played, and so you'll say stupid shit. But so, come on, guys.
So Derek, what you're saying is we shouldn't fire Jason Light and Dirk Cutter like tomorrow morning.
No, I
That's
don't think
what you're saying?
I don't think we should do that. We probably shouldn't cut everyone. We probably shouldn't, suck for a guy whose name rhymes with suck starting now. It shouldn't be a draft discussion moment. It's just typical overreaction, and
Right.
I was guilty of the positive side because I didn't think the Vikings looked very good on film. They just didn't. And so I expect us to go in there and have a great game. But when you walk in and all of a sudden you're down Brent Grimes as well, right? People are underselling how big that hurt. When you don't have Brent Grimes on one side, now all of a sudden Vernon's getting targeted more. Ryan Smith did the best he could do, was in position a lot of the time. I know that people are going to blame Conti because he's on the field. But it wasn't like we had a lot of over-the-top help planned anyway.
Right.
Right? We left guys on islands all day long for some reason. I assumed to try and get pressure that we couldn't get. Our young linebackers played their asses off, or tried to, but they don't understand depth and coverage yet, which is why we had blown coverage in the flats and in the middle. All of this is relatively predictable when you look at a roster that's down 40% of their starters.
And, that goes back to the question that I was talking to Ren about earlier today, and I kind of focused it on Swaggy alone, but, let's open that up to the big three that we're missing. Swaggy was out, Quan was out, and Brent Grimes was out. And then let's talk about the course of the game. Gerald gets hurt, Levante gets hurt, Vernon at some point was hurt, Ryan Smith at some point was hurt, Robert Ayers at some point was hurt. At this point, it might be easier to talk about who didn't get hurt over the course of this game. Let's talk about how that affects our defense, which, by the way, our defense then winds up staying on the field a lot longer. Our offense can't get anything going. There's just no momentum building on either side of the ball. But let's talk about how big it hurt, just starting with those three being out of Swaggy, Quan, and Brent Grimes.
Yeah, you look at that, and we all knew going in that Quan wouldn't be there, and we thought Beckwith would be able to hold up, and I think he did pretty well for himself. I think when Glenn got in, he got some good burn, too. But the fact that Swaggy couldn't hold up the middle, Ren said it well. Gerald was unblockable today, but no one else was. Robert had a pretty decent game. Noah went out early. Will played Will's game. He's not going to be the guy that leaps off the ball. But all of a sudden, when you're down Quan, you don't have the flexibility to send your linebackers because they're not going to be able to make the reads and decisions that Quan and Levante can do when they're in there. So you tie one hand behind Mike Smith's back, you take Brent Grimes out, and now all coverage-wise, you tie half of his other hand behind his back. And he's going against a team that's got good receivers. We talked about it before. Their receivers don't drop the ball often, right? They're not. I don't think they're spectacular, but they're fast, and they don't drop the ball.
They look like they had super glue on their hands today. There was nothing we could do to get them to drop a ball, it looked like, today.
Not at all. Not at all. And Case Keenum delivered the ball well. That's the other thing. I think we get so enamored with names that we know and names that we don't, that when you say, I can't believe Case Keenum beat us. No, a guy that threw dimes today beat us. Right? It wasn't like he was throwing crappy passes in the middle and people were Deboing our back to get the ball. Right? He was dropping it in their hands in front of a guy who was a half a step behind him. So and offensively, realistically, if I have to blame someone right now, since this is the instant cast, my heart is mad at the offense. The offense, and Chris and I got into an argument on Twitter about it because I think that he was just waiting for an opportunity to say this. This offense has enough weapons to move the ball and control the clock, and it did. The offensive line played below its talent level. Jameis played way below his talent level. A lot of that, I think, was play calling. A lot of it was the Minnesota Vikings played really good defense. Who knows? But it was he wasn't spreading the ball around. We saw Adam Humphries get the ball. We saw Cam Brate. We saw J. Howard. We saw Charles Sims. We saw Deshaun Jackson. He was spreading the ball around. Yeah, he focused on Mike Evans on that stupid throw into triple coverage that he hit Mike Evans in the hands with, I might point out.
Mm-hmm.
But he still shouldn't have caught it. He shouldn't have thrown it. He shouldn't have caught it. It was a dumb throw, but it wasn't an inaccurate throw. It was just a dumb, right? But if you can't move the ball with all those weapons, if you can't give that defense a break because they're busted up, dude, Coach Cutter, Todd Monken, this is on you. You've got to fix this. You've got to figure out the problem. And I don't think it's the people, right? I think you just got to get your shit together and get it right before the Giants come into town.
Yeah, I mean, it's something I think it's worth going ahead and talking about, is the idea that last week the offense, for all these different weapons we have and as good of a quarterback as Jameis is, and listen, nobody's saying Jameis is a bad quarterback, but last week the offense looked okay, right? They didn't look great. Last week the defense looked amazing, and we saw what happened, and the offense looked okay. They looked fine. This week, defense was horrendous, and we can, let's blame the flu bug. Let's just say it's that. Had a lot of people out, and however that affected us, it did. And the offense still didn't look as good. So, what is going on, and what's it going to take? We have all the pieces, right? I mean, this is what we talked about in the offseason. On paper, this looks amazing. What is the deal with not being able to put it together, between 1 and 4 o'clock on a Sunday afternoon?
Well, I honestly don't know yet. My instant reaction is that it's almost like there's too many weapons and we're trying to get too cute with stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I never like it when a coach goes away from the running game early because I think that the running game is your great equalizer. When you go away from the running game and you make it that obvious, and he was making it obvious at times, on downs it didn't have to be obvious. I watched one formation. James was back in the shotgun, and I think it was Jacquizz Rodgers that was back. He was 3 yards up. Right? There's no way that a draw is off the table at this point. At least give me the fear of a draw. But if you don't even give me the fear of a draw, my linebackers don't have to do anything to respect run. Right? This is just a pass, and all you're telling me is you got an extra guy in there who can block, moderately well. That's it. And I think that we are enamored with all the shiny weapons, and you can't avoid letting it be said that Jameis had a bad game, right? I mean, the throw to Deshaun Jackson was a bad throw. It was a good route, a good decision, a horribly executed pass, right? That's a touchdown throw. That's 6 points.
Yep.
The game changes there. That's the other thing. When you look at a curb stomping like this, you think about how big the curb stomping is. You don't realize that those things all happen based on momentum. If he gets a touchdown there, the game from that point forward changes. Now, I'm not saying we win the game, right? But it changes because all of a sudden you got everyone fired up again. Look what happened when we did score the touchdown to Deshaun Jackson. Defense came in and got the ball back. We were moving the ball. Everything's going great.
Right.
And then it falls apart,
Mm-hmm. Off an interception, right?
Yep.
It was off an interception.
On a route that wasn't completed, which I don't know why it wasn't completed, right? But it wasn't completed. Do I think it was the right read to throw to him there? I don't know. And I don't know if this is the right timeline, so I apologize because I watched it real time today. I haven't watched the tape, so I'm not sure. But I think that was the interception, that after which Mike Evans had his tantrum on the sideline and threw the big thing on the ground and all that other crap. And then we came back on the next possession. He tried to force it to Mike Evans, almost got him killed, and another interception occurred. I'm pretty sure that's the timeline. There were plays in the middle, of course, but.
It could be. Well, hey, Derek, thank you so much for calling in, man. I'm going to go ahead and clear the sign. We'll try to get Ren back in here and get somebody else a chance to call in. But, man, always a pleasure to get to talk to you and get your insight. Hey, real quick before you go, Thursday nights, 9 o'clock at mixler.com/whatthebuck. You guys can hear from the man speaking right here, Derek Fournier, old school. And, make sure you guys join him there.
Appreciate it, man. Take care, guys.
Hey,
Sorry
thanks,
if I bumped Ren off. Bye.
It's all right. We'll figure it out. Yeah, let's go ahead and try to get Ren back in here. I think Ren is actually listening, and Ren, I apologize. I think that's limitations of my own, trying to understand how Skype and all these things work with calling people in. Let's get Ren back in here because I really want to give him a chance to respond to all that stuff. So this is the fun music of Skype. For what we have going on there. So a couple people in the chat room are chiming in. Talk about that. Hopefully he didn't lose us. A couple people over in the chat room talking about, let's hear, talking about Sonny says that the O-line was horrible today. 3 of those interceptions were by Jameis. We're all on him. Yeah, Sonny, and one of those interceptions, or 2 of those interceptions actually, were like in the end zone. Could have been points on the board. Hey, Ren, is that you back with us, buddy?
Yeah.
Hey, I am so sorry for that, man. I was trying to figure out how to connect you guys so that you could get in there and talk to Derek as well, and things were grayed out and was trying to make it happen, and it dropped, and then I couldn't get you back in until after he cleared the line. So my apologies on that. That's my side, but I'm glad to get you back in the show here.
Yeah. So, what have you been doing the past 15 minutes?
15 minutes. Talking to Derek Old School Fournier. I don't know if you got a chance to listen in on the other side if you jumped into the Mixler chat room or not. But yeah, we were talking about Derek was saying, his knee jerk reaction. A lot of it comes down to the coaching, that we were just out coached on both sides of the ball, and they've got to get that figured out.
Yeah, no need to rehash for the listeners. Let's just move on.
Fair enough.
I'm sure they heard it.
Very much they did. So Ren, so just before, I apologize. There's been so much we talked about. What we were just talking about before Derek had called in, and I don't remember exactly what that was. Do you, or did you want to move on? Because I was just talking about the idea of the interceptions, and Derek had actually brought this up just a little bit. The idea that 2 of the interceptions that Jameis had thrown were like in the end zone, like could have been points on the board, and threw them like in that kind of red zone-ish, era, and they should have turned around and brought momentum back to the team.
Yeah, it's funny as this may sound, we weren't that far off from getting back into this game. Mm-hmm. As ugly it was at times, we were right there. Especially even with that last interception that went to Evans. So yeah, they were game-changing interceptions. They were game-changing plays. If they just would have went a little bit one way or the other way, if Jameis, I don't know if that was a terrible throw by Jameis or he thought Deshaun Jackson was gonna run more in, but it was short, so you'd probably have to hang that one on Jameis. He just sort of underthrew him. So yeah, the game. That's probably the most encouraging thing you could take out of this game, is that as bad as it was, as ugly it was on defense, as ugly it was on offense, there were times there, midway through the fourth quarter, that one play and we were right back in it.
Yeah, and we had a couple of shots of those, of one plays, and we would be right back in it. And I saw a couple people tweeting out the 28-3 picture of Vernon and Jameis, that the organization kind of trolled Atlanta with, of, in a little bit of just kind of saying, hey guys, there's still hope. One team came down from this far. We weren't quite that far down. The score wasn't that far separated, and it really did seem like there was. I know I had a lot of hope going into it, but man, once those interceptions came, it's like, oh my word. I had a note that I was talking about with these interceptions about Jameis. We all know that the interception ratio, the turnover ratio, especially for Jameis, has to get cut down. I saw a clip, and I don't remember if it was on NFL Network or Fox Sports Network or something, where they were talking about this very thing, but they were comparing Jameis to Brett Favre. And it seems like Jameis is getting compared more and more to Brett Favre here lately. And, somebody was saying what Brett would do is he'd get these interceptions, but it's because he was always going for these big, long, deep balls. He was just tossing them out there, and he'd hit 60% of them. That'd mean 40% of them would either fall flat or get intercepted. And his coaches were, Brett Favre, right? The great Brett Favre, his coaches were going crazy with, the number of interceptions that he was throwing. And I was sitting back and I was thinking, and Jameis, he did it once in this game, and then he didn't. Is if Jameis is going to throw an interception, and tell me if this rings true or if I'm just crazy when I say this.
Sure.
But if he's going to throw an interception, I would much rather it be he sees Mike, he throws to Mike in double coverage or maybe even triple coverage or just even in a 50-50 ball, or maybe even what happened with that weird one where like it looked like he was throwing it to Deshaun, but it was about 10 yards, too far to the right.
He got bumped off his route.
Yeah, and he gets bumped off his route. And I mean, to me, honestly, when he threw the ball, it almost looked like the ball just went where he was not wanting it to be. I'm a horrible of enough shot. It's why I don't play quarterback. I can try to throw the ball straight, but it winds up getting, hooking out to the right, kind of like a golf ball does on me sometimes. But I'm not a professional, ball thrower by any stretch of the imagination. So you'll forgive me if that happens. But it almost looks like I would rather that be the case for an interception than the pocket collapses and Jameis is taking a sack, and we get that thing that happened in the Jacksonville game where he just trying to save the sack, he throws a ball
early this game.
Yeah, or early this game, exactly. He's just trying to save the sack and he throws the ball stupidly, and that's when we get an interception. I would much rather see him get the interception in the first situation than by doing a stupid move when you're taking a sack.
It all depends on situational football. I don't ever want to see my quarterback throw into triple coverage, ever. I don't care what the situation is, because there's somebody else out there that's got one-on-one coverage for sure. So I never want to see that. Double coverage I can sort of understand, but that's eventually – I don't think we were quite there yet at the ball game. That's like taking your shot. That's down by 5 and you're on your 40 and it's 4th and 10. You gotta throw it. You gotta get rid of it. You gotta give yourself a chance. Give your receiver a chance. That's I like to see. I'm not really worried as we're taking. I kind of feel like we're taking this long term as Jameis is a quarterback. I'm not worried about it. It seems like every year, and it seems to be early, that he has this clump of 2 or 3 games where all his interceptions sort of come out for the year, and then he throws one every other game, one every 2 games, things like that. So, yeah, it's gonna. I don't think he's ever going to not have that. But think of this: that throw he threw to Adam Humphries. I think it was before he threw the Deshaun Jackson bump route, got bumped off his route interception, where he squeezed it in between like 2 diving linebackers and the ball was only like 6 inches off the ground, and Adam Humphries had to come in sort of like, sliding on his hip, and it hit his back shoulder. That was right before halftime. That was it. It was right before halftime because the announcer was saying just sit on it and come back out in the second half, and he throws that laser beam to Humphries like 6 inches off the ground between these 2 Minnesota defenders that are diving. That's the throw that you get, but you're also going to get that throw that, the ones that you don't like. If that was knocked down, or if like the defender made, like that linebacker made a great diving catch and plucked it off the turf, I can live with that. What I can't live with is throwing into triple coverage, and I can't live with on that the second drive where the guy comes free up the middle and Jameis is rolling out and then sees he's going to get sacked. So he just sort of like left-hand shock puts it to Jaquiz Rogers, and then Cameron Brate flies out of nowhere and catches it. I don't really think it saved interception, but it was definitely a really dumb throw. And then it's 4th down. We have to punt. That throw just cannot happen. I don't know what it has to do to get in his head about, when he did it in Jacksonville, he was just saying, I was feeling it. I was hot. That's not an excuse. That's something that, the 12-year-old hot shot with the cool, with the cool cleats, the coolest kid on the team with the coolest cleats on the team. That's something that he says, to the cheerleaders after the game. That's crap. That's stuff you don't do, not even as a pro quarterback, as a college quarterback. You get that stuff coached out of you at high school. So, in the long term, I really don't think it's going to be a problem. I think eventually he's going to learn his lesson. It looked like it early in the preseason. The problem is when we're on the road and we're behind, Jameis hasn't learned that he doesn't have to get it back on that drive. He doesn't have to get it back on that play. That's that conversation that Cutter had with him in Hard Knocks, that first episode. You're doing too much. It's fine to punt. There's plenty of game left. And we saw it because there was plenty of game left, and we'd move the ball right down the field, and then Jameis would try to do too much and throw it in triple coverage or some other thing. And I'm not blaming the whole game on Jameis, obviously. It was just we didn't do anything well offensively or defensively. Offensive line didn't play well. The receivers were okay. We didn't run the ball well. Jameis didn't throw the ball well. Besides Gerald McCoy, the defensive line didn't play well. I thought the linebackers played very good, honestly. I thought they were all over the place and they were making plays. But tackling, I think Dalvin Cook broke 7-8 tackles.
Oh, my gosh. When there was – I think it was – was it Glanton? It was one of our linebackers. I'm pretty sure there was one play that I saw. Dalvin Cook, he broke through the line, and dude comes up behind him. It might have been Vernon. I'm not sure. Dude wraps up. No, it was TJ Ward. That's who it was. Dude wraps up around Dalvin Cook. His arms are hugging his waist, and Dalvin Cook still runs for like another 5, 6, 7 yards, dragging TJ Ward behind him. I'm near positive it was TJ Ward. Well, Ren, I just from what you were talking about, I've got one more thing I want to talk about before we close out. We're coming up on our hour here, but I do want to go ahead and put out just kind of a final call for anyone who wants to call in 864-729-BUCKS. Everybody over in the Mixler chat room, the line is open. So if you got something you want to get off your chest, please feel free to call in 864-729-2827. We will take your call. But Ren, I feel like I've got to ask this question. This is the InstantCast show, right?
Yeah.
This is instant reactions. This is raw emotion coming out of it. I saw this being banted around on social media today, both in Facebook and on Twitter, by Bucks fans, and I think we have to at least address it. Yeah. Is Jameis the franchise quarterback that we've all said that we've all believed and hoped he could be? Is Jameis really a good quarterback? We know he's a great leader. Is he a good quarterback?
I have never been more disappointed in someone than I am in you right now for even bringing this question up, Brent.
It's InstantCast, instant reaction. I see these reactions out there.
This is okay. Well, they can call in.
This is our chance,
and I'll yell at them. What do you mean our chance? I don't want to answer that question. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Have you seen the quarterback play for the history of this team? Have you seen half the league's quarterback play? I mean, just because Case Keenum comes out there and plays a better game than Jameis, well, then Jameis isn't good anymore. Oh, he's a rah-rah guy, but he can't throw the ball. He threw the ball great when it wasn't going to the other people's hands. That pass to Mike Evans was a dime. I am not answering this question. I am not doing it.
I think you just did. And to everyone out there who thinks that Jameis is not our franchise quarterback, who thinks that Jameis is not a good quarterback, that he can't stand up under the pressure, that he's not going to do the work, stop it. I like what Derek said. Ren, I don't know if you got a chance to hear it. Take off your jersey, give it to me, we'll find somebody who really wants to wear it. Come on, people. Jameis is our franchise quarterback. He is good. And I don't think we ever have to address this question again. But Ren, for the record, I think you did just answer it. By the way, the chat room just blew up on that question. Everybody with a resounding yes. Yes, Jameis is our franchise quarterback.
Yeah, good. You need to quit. Wherever you saw that, just don't ever go back to there again.
I actually think I unfollowed that person, that particular. It wasn't just one. That was the thing. It wasn't just one person. I saw several people out there saying it, and I went, "Oh my gosh!" I started taking screenshots of stuff like this, going, "Oh my word!"
That's why I don't. That's why I don't follow on Twitter. I really don't, because I understand how emotional people get, and they wake up the next day. Maybe they still might feel like that, but if you can actually have a conversation with them, they'll be like, okay, yeah, you're right. But be able to go from like, yeah, we're gonna kill the Minnesota Vikings to, is Jameis really the answer? And like 2.5 quarters of football is not logical thinking. You're just too wrapped up in it. And praise you for your fandom, but you need to, you take my advice, like put the phone down if we're losing, put the phone down, just put it down. And that's exactly why I look at my fantasy guys. That's it. Because, I will flip out on somebody and then I'll get into it. I'll be getting into this Twitter fight with some guy who I think's a freaking moron. And
instead of watching the game.
Right. Exactly. So I just put it down and there it sits.
All right. Well, guys, I think that is going to do it for the InstantCast show tonight. You guys make sure you stay tuned to the PewterCast, to the Twitter feed there. We will be coming out with episode 45, I think it is, where we'll be talking about the Bucks-Vikings game a little bit more in detail once cooler heads prevail. We'll have an all-new top 3. We've got a brand new guest coming on the show as somebody who was at the stadium there in Minnesota, so we'll get a first-hand account from people who were there. I'd like to thank everybody who joined us in the Mixlr chat room. You guys can join us every I don't want to say every. We had to cancel last time because of home game. I'm not sure how that's going to work for the Giants
every road game.
At least right now, every road game, we will be here 9 o'clock Sunday night, mixler.com/PewterCast, and stay tuned. We'll figure out what happens with the home games from here on out. We're still trying to figure that out. So I want to say thanks to everybody who called us, who called in tonight, and you guys were awesome. Those of you guys who joined us, those of you guys who are listening on the podcast app later, you guys all rock. You guys can send in your thoughts. Keep sending in your thoughts on the game. Keep sending in your thoughts on the Bucks. Any questions you want to ask, anything that you guys want to, that you want to talk about, send those in to the pewtercast@gmail.com. You can actually still call the phone number 864-729-BUCKS. You can leave a voicemail. We'll tackle those on the main episode. Until then, Ren, why don't you, if you have any final thoughts as we sign off here in the Instant Cast, please feel free to go ahead and throw those out there and let people know where they can find you on Twitter this week.
I have tons of thoughts in the game, but I'm going to save it for the main episode. I think everything. It's just very disappointing, and I think the people that did call, they were able to get some things off their chest. I feel a little better after you actually asked me that Jameis Winston question. I got to sort of lose it there for a second. So I feel better. So no, I don't have anything really more to discuss on the game. But you can find me on Twitter at Rendax, REN_DAXT. I'm always down to talk Buccaneers football. I also write for the Pewter Plank. I do 2 articles a week on there that come out on Friday and Saturday. And then I have my big articles, the ones that sort of take me weeks and weeks to get done because there's lots of research. I do that for whatthebuck.net, the gentleman who had such a lengthy conversation with Brent, the last caller this evening. I write for his website, and there's some really great content on there as well. So those are the places you can find me.
Very good. And you guys, make sure you check them out. Ren had a great article leading into the Vikings game today. That came out on Pewter Plank. I got to read that. It was good stuff. So well done there, Ren. You guys can find me at Brent Allen Live on Twitter or hit me up on Facebook.com/Brent Allen Live. You can always follow the show at the PewterCast on Twitter or on Facebook.com/the PewterCast. We do respond to all forms of feedback, and we'd love to take your comments and questions. We do have a kind of a fan interaction segment we do for the main episode, so we'd love to get you guys there. So guys, I think that's going to do it for the Instant Cast. One more time, thank you to everybody who joined us online in the Mixlr chat room, and we will definitely be hollering at you guys later. And until next week, guys, you know what we say, go Bucks.